Hi guys, today we're going to do some population problems with percentages. We have to introduce our variable. The variable, why do we need variables? Because we have to write it in an equation. So let's take a different color. Let's introduce the variable. Let n be the number of students in the school. Okay, so if n is the variable, if I had n amount of students and I have 40% of them boys, how will I find that out? I will multiply this by 40%. But we all know we cannot multiply with the percent, so I have to use the decimal version of it, which is equal to 0.4. So I have to multiply this by 0.4, which would give me 0.4 n. So following that order, we could say for the girls would be n times 0 and 6/10, which would give me 0 and 6/10 n. But we're not done. We have only figured out part algebraic expression for how many girls and boys are there in the school. But that's not our concern. We have to worry about how many girls are wearing glasses and how many boys are wearing glasses. Now out of this 4/10 n, 40% of this number wears glasses. So to find out what 40% of this is, I have to multiply 40%, which is 40 over 100, by this number, 0.4 n. What will I get? This would cancel, and I would get 1.6, 0, 1600 n. Don't forget the n. That's the amount of boys wearing glasses. Now let's figure out the amount of girls wearing glasses. We're going to do the same thing. How many? 20% girls. Okay, so 20% means 20 over 100 times, which is 0.6 n. And if I simplify this, I'm going to get 1.2, 1, it's going to be 0.112 n. That's the amount of girls wearing glasses. So if you want to check it out, use this in a calculator and see how you can do this. I can also show you another way to something that we have done in the past. Let me get a different color. Okay, so instead of writing this as 0.6, I can write this as 60%. It's 100 times n. It's the same thing. This is substitution for this. So if I do that, it would be easy when I'm multiplying with a fraction like this. For example, let's do that here. Okay, let me undo. Now I'm going to erase this. So I'm going to use that 60% as a fraction. 60%, 20% would give me 6 times 2 is 12, divided by 100 would also be 12 hundredths. Don't forget the n in here, and we get the same number. Okay, so you can use any way. You can use a fraction, you can use the decimal, say similar equivalent expression. Now we are not done yet. This is boys and this is girls, but we need the total, which means we have to add them together. I'll let you add them together and you tell me what percent combined wears glasses. Okay, quick next question. In 1 year's time, 20% of Miss McElroy's investments increased by 5%. 30 of her investments decreased by 5%. And 50% of her investments increased by 3%. By what percent did the total of her investments increase? So this we have to divide our page into 3 different parts. Let's get a different color. Okay, we're going to divide into 3 different parts. Why? Because it's 3 different parts of this question. 20% increased by 5. A different color. 30% decreased by 5%. A different color. 50% increased by 3%. You see, that's why. So here's one section, here's the other section, and here's the other section. Hello. Okay, so there's 3 different sections for us to figure out how to differentiate in the 3 different increases and decreases that happen. So first thing is first, let's introduce our variable. Let n be n again the amount, the dollar amount of Miss M's, I'm just going to put M's, funds before the change. So before the change she had some, before the change this percentage increase and decrease, she had some money, and that's what happened. It was this is 20% was decreased. I'm just gonna put some arrows. Increased by 0. No, it's 5%. Sorry, my mistake. It's 5%. And let me make this arrow a bit more increased, like the stock market. 30% decreased by 5%. And 50% increased by 3%. So I have that information written down. Now to figure out what do we have to do with 20% and 5%. So I have to find how much is multiplied to figure out, and how much is added to see what her real change was with the 5% increase. So let's do that. Let's actually get a different color. Trying to get a color matching. The yellow is not good. Okay, here you go. So if you recall, with percentage change and percentage increase and markup, markdown, that kind of problems we had 1 plus percentage change multiplied by the whole original. Now in this case, this is going to be the original. So all my numbers going to change to 0 and 2. 0, 3, 0, 5. That's 2 tenths, 3 tenths, and 5 tenths. So where does this n belong into? Out of the amount of her original money was the n, right? The original money, 20% of that original money. Now 20% of n, which means I have to multiply 20% of, means you're converting off into a multiplication by n. So this is what I have to do for every problem here. So this is going to be 30% of n, 50% of n. So if I multiply this, I'm going to get 2 tenths times n, 3 tenths times n, 5 tenths times n. Because if you simplify this fraction and multiplication here, you're going to get 2 tenths times n, which is, I'm going to put my n over here. Now I can erase these extra words. So what I did was, if n was the total amount she had before the changes, now I have to figure out first how much is 20% of n. N is the change, money before the change. 30% of n, 50% of n. Now I found out that those amounts. If I had n amounts, 0 to 10 times n would be my amount that I have separated here. Okay. Now I have to figure out how much should I multiply these by, because I have a 5% increase, 5% decrease, and a 3% increase. So here's where we're going to use the markup markdown method. 5% increase means it's going to be, I have a whole number 1 and I'm increasing it by 3%. So 3% means 1 plus 0, 0, 3. When I add these two, I'm going to get 1 and 3/100. That I have to multiply by this number. No n here. So let's go back again to figure out how we got that, because you have to do this in your Edulastic assignments. 2/10 and n is the amount, n is the whole amount. 20% of n gives me this part of the equation, of the expression. And increase, if I have an increase, I have to do 1 plus percentage change multiplied by the original. In this case, this is the original. So 1 plus 3%, 3% looks like that, and multiply by the original, which is going to be 2/10 n. So if I add this and multiply it by 2/10 n, I'm going to get some number. Okay, I'm going to let you guys figure out what number you're going to get, because I'm not going to solve this. There's no point me solving it, because you're going to solve it. Alright, so let's do this part one more time. I'm going to repeat each and every step for this part so that you will understand what we're doing, and then you can do this 50% part by yourself. So I had some number n, money, and I want to find 30% of it. When I multiply 30% of n, I'm going to get 3/10 n, because n doesn't have a value yet. We don't know how much money she had originally, so n is just going to stay as it is. So now I have a decrease, which means I have to use a subtraction, 1 minus percentage change multiplied by the original. This is the original. Okay, so 1 minus 5% is going to give me 0.95. Now this I have to multiply it by this, which means I'm going to multiply 3 times 0.310 n by 0.95. So there you go, I have that part come settle down. This I'm figuring out, if I had some amount of money n, 20% of this is this, and my money increased. So if I have 100, my money would increase by $5. Then I have 105. It's $5. 105. But since this is percentage, I have to divide by 100. So it's going to give me 1 and 0.5. Oh, I'm sorry, this is supposed to be 5 here. Oops. Okay, this is why Ms. Zuhair is almost always right. There you go. Okay, so now I know how I got this in expression. Solving the expression is not solving. Evaluating the expression is your part.